Hey, look, all our friends are
our
here.
friends, yes.
This is like family reunion.
We are apparently competing with Palmer Luckey's
Oh,
keynote.
come on,
so,
really?
Yeah. So,
Oh.
which is kind of ironic given what we want to talk about.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well.
All right. So more than half the people here know us already. So, and all the other half we want to know. People. Hi, I'm Linda Jacobson. This is my good friend, role model, inspiration, former business partner, and longtime collaborator, Carolina Cruz-Neira.
Yes.
Yes. and we could actually just go around and say, what's your name, and introduce everyone who's here. So thank you for being here. We wanted to share some opinions with you, some perspectives with you, some observations, and not necessarily facts, just ideas to think about that we hope we'll talk about with you after this. We met in Vienna.
When we were babies.
We were babies
in
1993. And immediately connected on kind of a shared perspective around the possibilities inherent in what was called virtual reality. It was right after the early commercialization of virtual reality hardware and software. Now, Carolina was fundamental and integral to that commercialization of the tools that allow us to do what we do, the XR enabling tools. And for 30 years, Carolina has been developing software architectures for the fundamental framework that's been dubbed the metaverse. But we want to distinguish it from the speculative fiction metaverse that was coined in a dime store novel, and talk about the corporate metaverse as it has been co-opted by Silicon Valley as a way to drive sales. So we're talking about this metaverse that kind of evoked where we saw the potential for us to all go together. And a dream of ours was to get to the point where you don't see the computer. You don't have to interface with keyboards or anything. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for being here. So we both envisioned a future of immersive media in which it's so easy to create experiences that the computer scientist's job is obsolete. And in fact, speaking of computer scientists, fundamentally, you put the name under Carolina, the title, and you may know that Carolina also is the inventor of the cave, the original social, human-centered, immersive environment. So a lot of really cool perspectives brought together.
Yeah, and if I might add, Linda and I intersected because as we were on the very early stages of the field, there is also another huge need at that time that was trying to connect people, technology, problems, and needs. And this is why the two of us connected, because as both of us were trying to figure out what the heck is this VR thing, at that moment, Linda actually was excellent at knowing who we were, and he was also very well known. She wrote her book, Garage VR.
Yeah.
That's what, brought us also together, because on those days, VR or XR today was literally being done in people's garages. Kind of, you hear the story of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, but pretty much it's very similar for XR.
So interesting to think about virtual reality in the context of confined spaces like garages and caves. And now I want to think about, especially everybody, happy Pride, let's talk about closets. So in your closet, Jackie, do you have just one pair of shoes? No? Okay. Carolina, I know you have more than one pair of shoes.
So basically, one of the conversations that we had as we were preparing for today's chat is, on our life activities, we have a lot of different shoes. We have shoes to come to AWE that are nice, comfy shoes to walk a lot. If some of you like, I don't know, mountain climbing, you probably have those humongous boots with the spikes on them so you can climb the mountains. If you like to play golf, you have your golf shoes. You have, tonight when we are all nice and pretty, we're all going to be on our nice high heel stiletto shoes. And, life activities take us to different interfaces to put on our feet that help us achieve the task on that particular moment. So we were kind of reflecting on that. And since my slides are extremely rebellious today, you cannot see some of the pictures. So that brought us to how do we see the world of XR today?
I never thought about shoes as an interface, but they are.
They are an interface.
They're a human world interface, right? And so, but you finished the analogy about the shoe being, we got one shoe on now.
Yeah, so right now, if you really look at the world of XR, in my personal view, and I think Linda laughed about it, but she agreed with it as we were preparing, we are trying to climb the Mount Everest with our stiletto shoes, our high heel shoes.
Or our sneakers.
Or our sneakers, or our, flip-flops to go to the beach, because when we do XR today, anybody that you say, I'm doing XR, the immediate question is, what headset do you use? Mm-hmm. So one single interface for our entire, both physical life and digital life. To me, I was on a panel in London a few days ago. I actually said it very clear. I feel we are actually regressing instead of progressing in the world of XR. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of progress from the financial side. Now it's very affordable. A lot of people can get their hands on, but at the same time, we are killing the true innovation, and we're killing really the moving forward in this technology.
It's true. The revolution in the headset space right now is really about the price, driving the price down. That's it. And the impact of the commodification of that headset is the access to the headset by anyone and everyone. So that's who's creating content for VR today. So we want those folks to be looking beyond the headset, looking at, believe it or not, text and audio and projection displays and touch simulation and other surfaces when you start thinking about creating these immersive environments. And the point is not about creating something to suit the hardware, but creating something to suit the people who are going to make use of the content. We all say that over and over again, but it's worth pointing out that the focus on headsets has constrained many developers, many creators.
And it has, in some cases, has not necessarily burned bridges, but it has made some certain communities kind of like, no, this is not for us, because there is an element that when you have a headset, you lose yourself completely. We are sitting here, and I'm not looking at myself, but I see on my peripheral vision, I see my hair, I see my knees, I see my hands, and that helps me to ground myself that I'm here on the stage. When you go into a VR environment with a headset, all that is gone. At the most, you got some kind of blue hands that are like, those are not mine, I'm teleoperating an alien or something like that. So you lose yourself in the digital space. Now, in some situations, depending on the task that you're doing, that's a good thing. That's what you want. You want the people to lose themselves in the digital space and forget about their physical being. But that's a subset. There might be other elements of XR where you want all of us to be us in the digital world. So that might be a different interface.
I was thinking about, like, those of us in the room who've been involved in this for 20 more years, we I think we all cringe a little bit when we hear people who've been in this maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years. They'll laugh at VR of the 90s. They'll say, oh, we're going to do it completely differently. We're not going, they failed. But in fact, we know that we did not fail because development continued, evolution happened, and while the fact that the consumer aspect didn't take off with the headset, there was no failure to launch, as we're accused of today. Instead, there was failure to invest R&D money in the further development of the hardware at the time, because the big companies that came in and looked at it, whether it was Sega, who else made those headsets? Division, all the early ones.
Virtual research,
they couldn't.
It's too expensive.
VPL, they couldn't sustain the investment required at the time to empower those of us who wanted to do development, because material science wasn't ready. It just was. We were too soon for it to take off in the way that is enabled today. So I want to switch to talking about from the hardware to the content development in the software, because we were all like Swiss Army knives back in the early days. But along with the maturation of the development pipelines, the software toolkits, the APIs, there's also been specialties developed on the development side. But because of the accessibility of the headsets now, developers or creators/developers are popping up all over. Just hundreds. Everybody's a creator. Everybody's a developer. You wanted to talk about?
And we had a conversation, because to me there is a big difference between a developer and a software architect. And right now we are almost obsessed with hiring developers. It's all about hiring developers. And you have to think about it as, an electrical engineer and an electrician. The electrical engineer designs the electrical infrastructure of your building, of your complex, or whatever it is, and then the electricians go and execute that design. But electricians cannot design the infrastructure for that building to sustain itself for the next 20 years, 30 years. And it's the same thing in software development for XR. We have a lot of developers. Everybody can develop a bunch of scripts in Unity, Unreal, or whatever, slap them together, and create an application. My 14-year-old son is right there. He can do that. But he's not a software engineer. He's not a software architect. He will be, hopefully, someday, but not right now. So whatever he does, I love it that he does it, but I will not give this to a major defense contractor as the VR solution for some kind of training. It looks cute, but first of all, it's going to have a lot of pitfalls. It's also not going to last the test of time. So we have to understand in this industry the big difference between developing software and engineering software. We don't have a lot of standards. Our standards are commercial packages. Mm-hmm. That is really not a good way to go.
Are you in the XR Association? Are you familiar? Because they're doing tremendous work in partnership with the Virtual World Society, two organizations that are taking the neutral approach to really codifying or at least identifying and
I'll give you an example that just came to my mind as I was walking around with the shop floor. We have this problem right now that everybody looks at me like, why is she asking that question? We have a single display.
Wait, what's the question?
The question that I have to the vendors is, what does your software assumes that one display is going to have two hands attached to it? Mm-hmm. I have one display that I need 8 hands attached to it because I have one display, single display, supports 4 viewers.
Stereoscopic, real-time, track viewers.
Display.
Okay.
So I have one display, but I need 8 controllers inside that display. None of the current software systems allow for that because they hard code the number of hand controllers that you can utilize. That's the difference between an architect and a developer. An architect will not have coded the number 2 inside the toolkit. It will have put a parameter that said, you know, maybe an octopus is going to want to use this display, so why limit it to 2? So right now, I have a portion of my work that, in a sense, is paralyzed for that simple fact, just an assumption, because it's headsets.
Do you think that there's an assumption on the part of all like hardware makers that all XR people are wanting headsets and only have 2 hands?
Maybe. I think, you know, and, you know, Jackie, Tom, and everybody that is here in the audience, you know that. I mean, one of the things that hurt us back in the 90s was also how the public media was presenting the technology and the expectations that they were setting.
Raising, right.
Right now, the media is doing the same thing. They are pushing headsets over and over and over and not realizing how other alternatives that we don't know what they are. I mean, in my time, I created the Cave because I tried the headsets and I said, hey, this is cool, but I don't want to go there alone. I want to go with my friends, and I want my body with me. And that's how the Cave came along, you know. But I don't think there is too many people thinking that way. And part of the reason, I think, and is also because of the business models. Developing new hardware is very, very expensive. But most important, it takes a long time. So that quick return in investment is not happening in hardware as is happening in software. So we continue doing, in a sense, more of the same, different variations, trying to hit that quick financial return. At least that's my perspective, you know. And that, I think, again, it really hinders us at the creative level of how the future of this technology is going to look like. I know Tom is in the audience, and I heard you say many times, oh, they're not going to get me on a headset because we need something else. But very few of us have the leisure to look at something else. I see Ed over there. He works with DOMs as another alternative. So there are other things out there that we, as a worldwide community, we don't really think about it. VR headsets, that's all we do.
That's one of the reasons I started working for a company that makes touch simulation. I wanted to expand my own set of skills and awarenesses beyond the display, beyond vision, and into other modalities that really allow us to connect with ourselves as mammals, you know, feeling mammals. I know, yeah, we got that cue. So I'll just sum it up by saying one of the benefits of having the kind of the historic experience is the ability to maybe more intuitively understand the goals of the users of the application you're developing, as well as the goals of the users of the tools you're developing.
And the goals of the users, and I call it context-driven XR, because really is who is the user, what the user has to do, where is the user going to do something is very, very important. Why is something needs to be done? When it has to happen? How long? So there's all these questions that we have to ask ourselves. And in some cases, the answer to those questions is going to lead us to a headset. And that's wonderful. But in some cases, the answer to these questions is going to tell us, this interface is not working for what I want to do, and what are my options, which are very few right now. There was a ton of options in the 90s, granted very expensive, but today we don't have a lot of options.
But we have a lot of shoes.
We have a lot of shoes. I still have my shoes.
Would anybody care to comment or ask a question or
throw tomatoes?
Because you know, first of all, I want to just say, disclaimer, I'm about to invite you to booth 417, not an endorsement by Carolina or University of Central Florida, but by my employer. Please come try touch simulation and see what's happening. This is a really hard problem, developing hardware that does realistic touch. 12 years in development for the glove that is being shown today, and software people think that that's awful. You know, what are you talking about? It takes that long to engineer and design something that can be used in rugged everyday work, factory work. So come check that out. And the other thing I wanted to say, Jackie just split, but she's going over to room 104, 103B. 103. We're in 104 now. We're all going to run over to 103 because Jackie's going to talk about formidable female creators, which opens us up too to just broadening the audience to more diversity, more perspectives, more fun and more shoes.
Yeah.
So.
And for me, one final word, if I can, in the last minute that we have to say, another thing that this community is not thinking, there's another community that is coming very, very strong, which is the community of digital twins. Now, digital twins is a buzzword right now. For me, again, it's more of the same. I have been all my life doing modeling and simulation. I've been integrating visuals, computations, network, user interfaces. But the world is finally catching up and is lumping all that together with the word digital twins. Well, digital twins, at the level that I think about a digital twin of a city. It's not GIS. You have to have all the architectural elements, all the infrastructure elements of the city, the dynamics of the cars, the dynamics of the pedestrians, the abstract data, for example, of the financial market on that, the socioeconomical elements, weather, all kinds of things. So that becomes almost a meta digital twin, nothing to do with the metaverse, but meta digital twin. How do we get into all that information? It has to be done through XR. Now, are you going to put the mayor on a headset? Maybe not. Now, the way we think about it, the headsets cannot handle that complexity. Because that's another thing we do. We have the headset with the computational capability of the headset. That's what limits what the application can do. We need to detach that. The headset is the window, is the portal to get in the digital twins. But it has to be a whole thing behind it to get it running. So the world is out there. We just have to open our eyes and really be creative, really innovate.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Really
very much.
glad you're
Round
here.
of applause for our
Thank you.
panelists.